unlikely selection, a usable solution. And he called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to heal every disease and every affliction. The names of the apostles are these. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Matthew 10, 1-4. While pastoring a quaint church in Thomasville, North Carolina, a very sweet mother of the church, famed for her spicy ribs, discovered how much I enjoyed spicy food. On one occasion, while trying to satiate my special spicy palate, this mother cooked her ribs way too hot. I tried eating them, but my chest felt like someone lit a blowtorch to my esophagus in the middle of a Mississippi summer evening. So the rest of those ribs were sentenced to a cold death in the rear of the refrigerator. For days, they sat there until Grandma got wind of them. She knew how much I loved ribs and didn't want them to go to waste. I walked into the kitchen one afternoon and found her washing them in the sink. I thought to myself, this old lady is destroying my ribs. She boiled the ribs down and reapplied the barbecue sauce, put them on a plate, pushed them towards me, and insisted that I eat them. Reluctantly, I acquiesced, and to my surprise, the once volcanic ribs were surprisingly edible. They were spicy enough for the taste, but not so much as to scorch my throat on the way down. Grandma took what was too hot to handle and made it palatable for consumption. Likewise, Christ takes the unusable and makes them usable for his purposes. Christ chooses and uses the unusable. It is a God prerogative. In the vernacular, you might say it's a God thing. Before anything was, he who is stepped out onto the inexhaustible strength of his being and called into existence an entire universe. From the void, he created the universe. From the face of the deep, he created life, and from the soil of the earth, he created humanity. Yet that same created humanity, stick with me, knew the Creator but chose to deny him, Romans 1. That denial demanded destruction, Romans 6. Yet God, in his stupendous grace, chose to reconcile the broken relationship, 2 Corinthians 5:18. He condescended from heaven to earth, Philippians 2, and died on Calvary as our substitute for humanity's sin. In victory, he went back to glory right before the eyes of his disciples to the right hand of the Father. Acts 1:11. To continue the work of bringing mankind to himself, God pulls together co-laborers. 2 Corinthians 5:18b. God calls each of us to join him in the process of inviting others out of the gloom of their rebellious sin into the illuminating relationship with him. Matthew 28. From the incalculable sea of humanity, God calls to himself workers to join him in expressing his person to the world. He chooses and invites ordinary people to the extraordinary task of expressing his person to the world. It never ceases to amaze me how God can take nobodies and make somebodies. How God can take nothing and make something. Jesus, as we remember, commanded his followers to pray to God to send laborers into the ripe harvest of humanity's soul. He chose them as laborers. They presented God with a problem, and through prayer, God transformed them into the solution for the problem. Jesus chose the 12 to assist him in winning the world to himself. Thankfully, he also chooses us to assist him in his laborers. It is curious then how God pairs his disciples. As noted in the recording of Scripture and the listing of the apostles, we find that the 12 are sectioned into 3 groups of 4s. These groups never change. Each group has its own leader, and the names may appear in different order, but always in the same section. No person ever left the group, and the order suggests something of their intimacy with Christ and the future work he had for them. Also, when Christ sent out the apostles 2 by 2, again, the pairing strikes us as very curious. Christ paired a boisterous Peter with a pensive John. He paired a traitorous tax collector working for Rome, Matthew, with a revolutionary assassin, Simon the Zealot. He paired an inclusive, Greek-loving disciple like Philip with a prejudiced, no-nonsense disciple like Nathaniel. Each of us, in various ways, are all unusable for Christ's purposes. Yet he reserves a place for each of us on his team. There exists a teammate for each one of us. I pray that God helps you to find your teammate so that you may execute the task for which God has called you to do. It never ceases to amaze me how God can take nobodies and make somebodies. How God can take nothing and make something. Live well. Hope well.